message people. Okay, I've tried to put in some new things on the stream, so it should now have a link to our Discord, followed by a list of everyone who's in the voice channel, which is a total of one person, which I can't really complain about. It's nice to have some solitude. And then there's actually going to be, if you can't see it, then it's not working. There should be a list of all of the current posts on the Citizens channel in the main server. So hopefully all that's working. Really no one here and no one watching, I don't think. So let me... Yeah, I don't think anyone's actually watching. Huh. Okay, so the plan is I'm going to give it a few minutes for people to show up. So my plan is I want to start a game of Civilization 6. And hopefully if people show up, we'll do this semi-democratically. I believe I turned off all my mods, so this is just a vanilla game. And whoever shows up will get to vote on the civilizations, and we'll take it from there. Just kind of discuss what's going on with Democraciv. And if nobody shows up in like 15 minutes, I'll just do whatever. Okay, and it looks like Sneck is here. Hello. Yeah, so Sneck is just here to lurk if that didn't show up on the screen. Yeah, and that's fine. Yeah, I said this is really just to test some stuff I wanted to see on the stream, see how well it works. And before I'm going to say one way or the other about whether we should be playing Civ 6 or Civ 5 for Mark IV, I really want to see a stream of Civ 6 play out, at least just for a little bit, to see if this is even workable. The nice thing with Civ 5 is that you can go several turns without having to do stuff, which normally is a problem in a Civ game, and it's worse in the older games, but Civ 6 gives you a lot to do every few turns. And since every decision has to be made democratically, you get your civic and then immediately have to decide what to pick. It doesn't really give much time for discussion and debate, and if we're doing several turns, this isn't really going to work. So I'm concerned that we might end up having to do like 5-turn streams or something like that, really limiting our streams to allow for more politics. So we could do shorter streams and more frequently. I think that's a problem. Or we can just do shorter streams and have a really long-running game. So it's up to think about. Hopefully this stream can show if this is workable. So I'm still waiting a few minutes. We just have one lurker here. So for leaders, we have Alexander. That's where I'm going to admit I have not played much of Civilization 6, just because I've had a lot of other stuff going on. I've played several full games, and so I do, for the most part, know what I'm doing. Let's see. But I don't know all the leaders yet. Alexander, cities do not incur war weariness. All military units hail completely when the city This player captures a city with a world wonder. Not bad for military. And I'm still going to give people a few minutes. Catherine de' Medici. I believe I've played as Catherine de' Medici. Cleopatra, Cyrus. So, yeah, Rise and Fall the new expansion comes out in, I think, 2 weeks. And I already got mine on pre-order, so it's going to unlock as soon as it's out, so I'm really looking forward to that. Definitely will be out before we even get started on Mark IV. So if we do go with Civilization 6 for the next round of Democraciv, we will be using the expansion. But we probably shouldn't launch until people have had a chance to play through it and kind of know what we're doing. But I think it'd be kind of nice to launch Mark IV while the expansion is brand new and there's more interest in Civ again. Maybe get some people more fired up about this. So, so much enthusiasm here. So, our first game we played as Poland, and I don't think Poland is in here, but our first game, Poland, yeah, Poland is in here. First Democraciv game we were Poland, and that was not very well. Then we played as England, which went wonderfully. Right now we're playing as Rome. Things are getting interesting at the end. So I would say not play any of those. And I'm getting some weird compliments, and I'm not quite sure what to make of that. Yeah, I'll assume it's one of those backhanded compliments. Okay, well, give it maybe another minute, see if anyone else shows up. And then, Australia might be an interesting choice. So for Australia, we have 100% production if either they have received a declaration of war or if they have liberated a city. Housing in coastal cities, good. Pastures trigger a culture bomb. Really? Huh. Yeah, I think I'm thinking going with Australia this time, and just standard settings. I have not played anything on a faster speed, but it might be a good idea. I don't know. There's still time to play around with stuff and get more familiar with the game before we commit to anything. And since it's not anyone else in the voice chat, I'm going to go ahead and start with Australia. And of course it's democratic. 100% of the voting population
From the
voted for
first
it.
stirrings of life beneath water, to the great beasts of the Stone Age, to man taking his first upright steps, you have come far. Now begins
And
your
Snack
greatest
votes
quest. From this early cradle of civilization on
Now,
towards the
Sean
stars.
Bean has a nice voice.
Prime
My
Minister
voice,
Curtin,
I don't know, but
you will lead Australia through challenge after challenge, and your people will emerge all the stronger for it. Others will seek friendship for your strength. If these friends prove loyal, your might and protection will carry you far. But stay vigilant, for aggression is not your natural
it's
course.
soothing to listen to. I've been told that before. It's I don't quite get it, but okay. Feels a little bland without the music, but we had a lot of problems in Mark III with the background music and some publishers trying to give us a hard time over it. Okay, so this is where I would like to have I would have liked to have a democratic thing going on to discuss what we can do with each turn and the units. Since there's nobody here, then I'm just going to have to figure this out. I'm not discounting Snek, but Snek is just lurking and talking in the chat. So I am I'm acknowledging you. It's, yeah, I mean in the voice chat. I was kind of hoping we can get a few people in here to at least try and make this democratic in a sense. Now I'm feeling bad. Why can't I just be a sociopath? Okay, so what I'm thinking is Australia gets their housing bonus for being on the coast, and I don't want to take out the cattle. So I'm looking at one of these two spots. Either on the west, there's a nice spot here, and on the south, there's a spot here. Now, I'm actually looking at this spot, and this is really good, so I'm going to settle here. So, Snack, what do you think? Going here to settle. Alright. And then we have the warrior. And, I don't know, it might be good to go over here to the rainforest, get a good view of what's going on, but we'd also get a little more movement going over to the grassland. So those are the two options I'm looking at. We could also escort the settler, but I don't think that's necessary. Snack, are you not able to get to the stream? It's twitch.tv/democraciv. And so, yeah, I hate typing on the phone, so I can't really link you to it. One time I had it set up where you could just type Twitch in the chat and it opened. Okay, well, I think I'm gonna go. There's a good argument for either. I'm concerned about what might be up here. Okay, so it's the end of the first turn. We've got Silk right here, and then we've got Wales. That's not too bad, and we're right on a coast. Off to a good start. And let's start a city. And we have just gained insight into navigating the waves. Something I really like about Civ 6 is that you get boosts by the actions you take, so stuff that happens can actually impact the game in interesting ways. I like that. I also like the road system a lot, but I don't like the changes they made to movement and the way movement is done in roads, and I hope with Rise and Fall they take a look at that and make some changes. So we've got a boost on sailing, and Canberra. I'm going to move this warrior up here. Now it looks like there's something right to the north that I want to investigate. So I'm just going to go up here. Jerusalem. Nice. Alright, so let's see. We have an envoy in Jerusalem, and Jerusalem wants a great merchant. So let's look at our envoys. We get +2 faith in the capital because of our envoy. So let's start our production. Monument is good for getting things going. Scouts are really good because there's a lot of competition to getting the villages. I'm gonna say we start with a scout and go for a monument from there. For research, let's see. Mining could be good to get the stone, but it could take us a while to get the builders. I don't know, sailing could be interesting, but I think it's too early. I think given our location, mining is our best bet. If you want to talk, that's fine. It's meant to be a broadcast for everyone, not just me talking. Okay, and just found a village, which makes so much more sense than the ancient ruins, and some mercury. Alright, I'm going to cross this river.
Je suis Catherine, reine mère de France. Je vous souhaite la bienvenue à mon royaume. J'ai grand désir
Sneck
et
needs
envie
peer
de
pressure.
découvrir
I'm just not one
tous
for
vos
peer
secrets.
pressure. So don't try and peer pressure me into peer pressuring. Alright, so just met Catherine, Queen Mother of France, who welcomes me to the realm. It's my realm, so what is she talking about? I can either say it's an honor to meet you, or well met stranger, but I'm afraid we are too busy to stay in chat. So should we be nice and diplomatic or brush her off? Okay, it is an honor to meet you, Catherine de Medici. You have not lived until you've had our delicacies of food and drink, and I can show you how to use a fork if you wish. Nice. Okay, so we can sample their hospitality or say, sorry, but not at this time. Okay, let's sample the hospitality. And we've learned a bit about writing, just because what we're doing is writing down our complaints about everything that the French just said to us backhandedly. Okay, now I do not like how close the French are to this village, and if they get there first, I'm not going to be happy.
Gott grüße euch, Geselle. Ich bin Kaiser Friedrich und herrsche über Deutsche und Welsche Lande,
Frederick
über Burgund
Barbarossa
und manche mehr.
of Germany.
Ich weiß wohl, dass auch ihr kundge herrschen mit rechter Gewalt.
He doesn't seem very nice. Now we can offer him, would you like to sample our nearby, would you like to visit our nearby city and sample our hospitality, or should we brush him off? Sample. Looks like we're being nice this game. Okay, I think we get to that village first. I'm not even going to bother being diplomatic. We need this village. Aha! We have learned quite a bit about irrigation. Take that, France. Okay, so end turn. So apparently the 5-turn thing isn't really necessary in the early game unless stuff changes for Rise and Fall. I'd hate to get to the point where we have to pause every time we get a civic, which might be what we end up having to do. So I'm going to start moving the warrior back closer to home. Do you agree, or should I keep exploring? Okay. So we'll have the scout next turn, and we'll have the scout do the exploration. Okay, and that would be Germany. Coffee. Alright, so I'm going to move the warrior over to this stone here. That'll give me a little bit of exploration while still getting me close to home. Right. And now, which way should we send the scout? To the northwest, or to the east, or to the south? Let's go northeast. Nickname? You mean espresso? And a lot of the time when I'm trying to think of a nickname, I just think about what I'm eating or drinking. So I was probably drinking some coffee at the time. Alright, can have mining in 4 turns, so I would suggest either a monument or a builder. If we get the builder, we can start working the stone. If we get the monument, we can start producing culture. So, say monument or builder. Builder, okay. Yeah, that's a strategy I don't usually take, so this will be interesting. Okay, bringing him back close to home. Move the scout. And then investigate that coffee. Oh, wait, we've got a city-state to check out. Alright, so it looks like ready to end turn. Now, we're going to have some money pretty soon. So with the money, should we save it, or should we buy a tile when that becomes available in 2 turns? Okay. Alright, so gonna sadly go away from the coffee towards the city-state. Oh, tea! Oh, I moved the wrong unit, didn't I? That's okay. That unit's gonna go home and guard Canberra. So it looks like at this rate, win about 11 turns before unlocking a civic. So probably our first session would be 10 turns if we went with this. And we have met Palenque. Now, one thing with Civ 6 is you don't get the pop-ups as much as you did. Instead, you get these notifications on the side, which is good and bad. Okay, so Palenque wants a trade route, and we've got a city-state envoy, which gives us +2 science. Very cool. Alright, so I'd suggest, as soon as possible, getting a trade route going.
Who deserves more credit than the wife of a coal miner?
Alright, so we've unlocked our first technology. We've got mining. So we can start work on those quarries as soon as the builder is done, which is great. And we have
It
our
is not
first civic.
wisdom, but authority that makes a law.
Let's take a look at our civics. We get 2 civics to pick from. First, we get a military. So we can have double experience for our scouts, or we can have +5 combat against barbarians. What say you?
Double experience.
Good call. Alright, and then we have +1 production, or +1 faith, and +1 gold in the capital.
Production.
Okay. I usually like to go with God King because you get faith a lot faster, but they're both good choices. Alright.
Religion is the opium of the people. We need communism. Establish it.
Now remember, this is a democratic game, which means you're not allowed to voice those kind of opinions. Having your own voice on an opinion in a democracy, that's unheard of. Alright, so
That's why we need dictatorship. Where you can voice your opinions, criticize the dictator freely.
okay,
Not this capitalistic freedom of speech. Oh,
which way should we move the scout? We can move him into Palenque, we can start moving him back north, or we can explore the south.
onward.
Into Palenque?
And just move it in the mystery area.
To the south?
Yeah, why not?
Alright. A lot of trees. Okay, so what do we need to study? Let me pull up that tree. Now with irrigation we can work on that plantation and get that silk. So that'll take us 10 turns at this rate if we go with pottery. Which could also be good with the granary. I don't think we're ready for sailing, but we should get that soon. I would say it's between pottery, animal husbandry, and sailing right now. So what do you think? Oh, what?
Sail.
You know, I didn't realize we've got the whale, so definitely go with sailing. Alright, and we've got a new civic. Oh, we have to pick a civic, sorry. We can do craftsmanship, or we can do foreign trade. Palenque wants to trade with us, so this could be a good choice. So, craftsmanship or trade? Now I'm leaning towards trade.
Trade. Gotta
Alright.
make them capitalistic bourgeoisie money.
Yeah. Now, I think we might need to settle closer to Palenque for that trade route. I'm not sure if it's within range. We'll find out. Alright, so end turn. Alright, so what is going on with Mark III right now? Because I have been out of the loop for some time. I watched some of the stream on Saturday. So, it seems like our participation has dropped down quite a bit. Ramblings of a Madman. Exactly. Welcome, Charizarian.
Hey, Charizard, I choose you. Oh god, I need to go to sleep. Alright.
So, I say we move the warrior back into the capital to guard the place, or we could put him on this hill to watch for trouble.
Yo, watch for trouble.
Okay.
Alright, Espresso, I'll leave you with Charizard. I'm off to sleep.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Well, good night then. And I'll move the scout to the south. Found an oasis.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I could hear you.
Alright. I had trouble getting my mic to work.
All right. Well, I can hear you. You're a little quiet, but I can hear you.
Oh wait, I can turn myself up.
Okay.
Better now?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Playing as
We're playing as Australia.
Australia.
Yeah, there was a vote. A total of 1 person voted, so it was a landslide victory.
Ascot. We've got 5 people watching.
Do we?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, hello to the lurkers who are watching and not joining in. So, on the, I think I put it on the right side. Is the chat panel showing up on the stream?
Oh no, it's on the top left.
It's on the left. So I set it to go on the right because on the left it's going to cover up the world tracker.
On the left, no, it's top left, so it's covering up, what's it called? Research and civics.
Right, that should actually be over on the right, and then the chat part should be right above the mini-map on the left side. But nothing should be covered up. Okay, well...
Yeah, no. I mean, you can still see through it, but...
Yeah, I will take a look at that. There's one of the things I wanted to look at was putting these Discord widgets into OBS, seeing how that played out. Because one thing I have trouble with in the streams is telling who's talking. So this should highlight the person that's currently speaking. So hopefully that's working. I don't see the same thing you're seeing on the stream. I'm just seeing the game. Otherwise, how's the stream look?
Right, sorry, what was that? I was called away.
Yeah, how does the stream look?
It looks good. What are we on? 1080, yeah.
Yeah, I set it to 1080. I was just wanting to make sure that's not going to be too laggy as far as the internet.
Well, I've got a decent connection. Somebody who's not got such a, because I think because we're on, I believe the way it works, because we're a small channel, as Twitch sees it, we don't get choices. So if we stream at 1080, people can't choose to watch it at a lower resolution if they cannot watch at 1080 because the internet is too slow. I think Le Pig had that problem before doing a session where it was streamed at like, I think even 720, and his internet wasn't good enough to watch that.
Well, if it's an issue, we can always adjust the streaming quality. When I was testing this out, I did it at 720 at first, and I found it was just really blurry. And I thought I'd try it out in 1080, and what I found with 1080 is it looks really good when you're staying in one spot, but when you're moving around like this, it just turns to pixels. So I don't know if that's what's happening when you're watching it. That's what I saw in the preview.
Yeah, a bit. It's a bit I think that's just the bitrate.
Yeah,
Not being very high. So
yeah. But it looks great
Well,
when
it's-
you're staying in one place, but when you're scrolling around a lot, it pixelates a lot.
yeah. To be honest, I didn't realize before you said so.
Yeah, well, now that I've said it, you're going to notice it a lot.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
spot, I
Germany,
can type.
yeah.
Actually, Ken, I am watching the Discord on my phone. So whatever you type in the Discord, I'm going to see. Okay. So, let's see. Where were we? I think it's the end of the turn. I'm going to be moving the warrior up to the hill to watch for trouble. How much visibility he'll have, I can't say because of all these trees. So it might not be a bad idea to actually move him a little further. We keep
Playing
this.
on-
What was
Playing
that?
on tiny? You playing on
We're
tiny?
playing on standard, just small actually. Yeah, I just put it on the default settings for everything with difficulty on standard.
Mhm.
Or prints, I mean. Let's see. Do we keep the scout going in the same direction? Just maybe towards this unknown spot?
Probably best, yeah.
Okay.
Might find a little goodie hat. I think it's a lot rarer in Civ 6 to find a goodie hat than like ruins. in Civ
Sometimes
5.
I've just found a ton of them, and other times I, barely found any. So it's always a little different. Found another city-state. Well, no, it says German. I think we might have found Germany.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, since you weren't watching earlier, we've met France and Germany so far, and we've been nice to both of them.
Oh, that doesn't mean much. It's very difficult. Even if you can see now why they don't like you, it does seem a bit arbitrary.
Yeah,
Arbitrary at times.
that's always been a problem with since Civ 5, and honestly, Civ 6 is built so much on Civ 5 that it inherited so many of the flaws.
Yeah. I mean, a big flaw I find is that if you are behind in the civic tree and you haven't gotten like a government, like if you're still on tribal and they move on to like an oligarchy or whatever, they start denouncing you because you have a different government, which doesn't really make any sense because you don't really technically have a government.
Right. Well, I'm holding out hope that Rise and Fall is going to be a really big change like Gods and Kings was. I think that might be asking too much, because Gods and Kings was a huge step up from vanilla.
Yeah. Was that Gods and Kings? That was the first one, yeah.
Yeah, it was Gods and Kings, and then Brave New World was a huge step from Gods and Kings. But Gods and Kings saved the game.
No, I only played when both of them were already been out, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I played vanilla for a while. At first I hated it, then I got to really liking it, and then got Gods and Kings, and the only thing I really hated in Gods and Kings was they changed the HP from 10 points to 100 points. That was great, but they had this tendency to have you do 99 damage, so that
Right.
you'd be going for a battle that in vanilla you would have won easily, and they would just put this little chance that it would screw up and they would be left with 1 hit point, get the promotion, and heal back up to 51.
Yeah, it happens a lot, yeah.
Yeah, and it happened too often, and I hated that. I also hated that they were so adamant about the RNG, not putting random numbers in the game for any reason, and then when they put religion in, the one thing that should not have been a random number, they made that random.
Yeah.
So I think they handle great people differently here. So
Yeah, is it the first time you've played Civ 6?
me, I've played about 3 times.
3 times, right.
Yeah. So I'm still getting used to the game.
One thing I think if you play single player,
Yeah.
great people are a lot easier to snipe away from the AI because you can buy them with faith and money, and I don't think the AI can do that. The Great Cookie Machine, top left is Discord chat, top right is Discord voice chat.
Okay, we have sent a diplomatic envoy to you. Treat them as you would treat me, the Duke of Swabia, King of Burgundy, King of Germany, King of the Romans, King of Italy, and Holy Roman Empire, and Windbag. Your delegation is most welcome. Our capital is not open, or goodbye.
It's always good to accept that. Doesn't mean much, really.
As you know, that's something that bothered me with Civ 5 and further on into Beyond Earth, and even in here, is a lot of these choices don't really matter.
Yeah.
And I always kind of felt in Civ 4 that they had more importance. Not always, but I liked having some consequences for the diplomacy and having things where your choice could actually make things go right or wrong.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's another thing I'm hoping Rise and Fall is going to make a little better. I need to get a little more familiar with the features that are going to be in it.
Yeah, all I've seen so far is that it's got Dark Ages and Golden Ages.
Yeah, and that sounds awesome. So I'm eager. I've got it on pre-order. So
I think Dark Ages are like, I think they have like a tree or something you can do during, if you're in a Dark Age, to make it not as bad and make it durable. I'm not sure if you can do anything during a Golden Age to make it even better.
okay, so should we go to the east or should we go south?
I'll head south because
Alright. And then we can either go into German territory or check out this wheat field.
let's check out some wheat wheat.
Alright, so we found the crabs. Alright, how about our warrior? He's supposed to be keeping an eye out for barbarians to the east. Is he in a good spot for that, or?
I think the thing with barbs is if there was a barbarian scout coming from the west, the barbarian, our warrior on that side, is never gonna catch him.
Right.
So I always find it best to keep in the capital, because if they go back to a barb camp with horses in them, you'll get horsemen within like 10 turns and they'll fuck
I'm
you.
not as concerned with the scouts, and maybe I'm just not familiar enough with the game, as I am with the line of sight, because what I find is if you have any fog of war here, they are going to spawn. So
Yeah.
that's my concern.
I think, yeah, the mechanic with the scouts is that they once they see a capital, they get a little exclamation mark over the head.
Okay, that's good to know.
And they run back to the nearest barbarian camp, and then they'll spawn barbarians there. And if they're near horses, they'll spawn horsemen, which we can't even get yet, I don't think.
Right.
And then they'll come for your capital or whatever they saw. So it's always good to chase them down and get them before they manage to get to the
So is
camp.
your suggestion that we take the warriors and move them back into the capital?
Yeah,
Okay.
personally, I'd do that.
All right.
And then when we have when we get that worker in turn, I'd say just stick the warrior on the worker.
Okay.
Because right now we have such low visibility, I could easily get sniped.
All right. Well, one thing we can do to improve visibility slightly is we can buy a tile now, but we could use the money for other things later.
There's nothing really that we need to buy.
Okay.
I mean, apart from the cows, but that's
Yeah.
that's not really
Yeah.
worth it.
I don't see anything immediate. So. Okay. Were you here when we were discussing the civics?
No.
Okay. I was thinking if we were to do Democraciv in Civ 6, the civics are going to be a problem because,
Oh no, I think I might have.
yeah,
I said that. Yeah, you kind of have to stop every time.
yeah,
you'd have to
we are going to have to stop when a civic is found.
Mm. The thing is, sometimes when a civic comes, it's one you're not really interested in that much, and you
Right.
just kind of ignore it. But like if it's in Democracy, you'd have to
Right.
take the time out anyway because
Yeah, it's going to be a really time-consuming thing to deal with the civics. And ideally, that would be a big political issue that we could be debating and having all this stuff going on about. But I think it can get really tedious.
yeah, it's, people will enjoy it at the beginning,
Yeah,
and then they just
and
get over with it.
From the
towards
games
the-
I've played, it starts out like this. You don't deal with a lot of the civics immediately, and then you just get, like, every 2 turns you get a civic.
Mm. Yeah.
Maybe that's because I like to get a lot of culture going, but I think that could be frustrating.
Well, if it goes by any games we've played, just Democracy culture usually isn't that great for us, I don't think.
Well, one thing that we do in Democraciv that is kind of frustrating is when we have to stop the game for everything. I'd like to think of some way that we can plan ahead, so we can say we need X amount of turns each round and stick with that instead of this came up, game over. Let's meet next week. But of course, there's problems with that.
Yeah, it's going to disrupt the game flow. The people
Yeah.
who run the game are going to get annoyed. I mean, technically, yeah, you can have a look at how many turns you've got to go, and
Yeah.
how much, when the next civic pops, when the next tech pops, stuff like that. But then you don't know, you might boost the civic halfway through, even just accidentally, but I don't know. Some of them are just like kill 3 units with a musketman.
Yeah,
That might happen randomly in between, and
right.
suddenly
Or this case is
game session is cut in
discover a
half.
second continent. When's that going to happen?
Exactly.
I had a game where I found it the second turn,
Mhm.
and so who knows?
Yeah.
So I would think if we're gonna be looking at Civ 6, we got to work on how the civics are gonna work, and are we gonna stop the game when the civic hits, or do we just set a certain amount of, how much
mean, we
planning ahead for that? Are
Yeah, we
gonna do?
could. You could just plan ahead, have votes ahead of time.
And
People
that's
say,
I think
well,
that's what we're gonna have to do if we go through with Civ 6 is we're gonna have to plan ahead for the civics,
definitely.
or at least maybe put it in the hands of the governors or the
Or whoever will be in charge.
whoever's gonna be whatever the government structure we're planning is.
Über Vorsichtigkeit sie gelobet.
Oh, we only got 2
Zu
people
helfen
watching.
diesem Reich hieße tanzen mit dem Tode.
Okay, what is he talking about?
Who?
Okay, Frederick just
Alright.
commended me on my prudence. To aid that city-state is to invite death. And I don't know what he's talking about.
Did you accidentally do a quest for a city state?
The quests are create a great merchant or establish a trade route. We haven't done either of those.
None of that has happened.
So, I don't know what you're talking about.
Maybe
Alright, so we get a couple choices here. We can either get the stone or we can work on the whales.
Can
We're
we embark
one
here?
turn away from having sailing.
I'd
So-
get the stones.
Okay.
I'd get the stones.
Now we go north or east.
East.
Okay.
Actually, no.
Too late now.
Alright.
Okay. I really like how they do builders. Honestly,
Is a lot, yeah. Makes, well, doesn't Well, somewhat makes more sense.
Yeah.
Wouldn't take you hundreds of years to.
Yeah, I mean the turns have been there since the beginning of Civ, where it takes like a million turns to do something. I do like how this is the instant building, just more expensive for the builders.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got a Pantheon to choose.
Oh no, that's quick.
All right, so
That's one other thing you can really neglect. Things like religion and whatever culture in Civ. Well, you can do it in Civ 5 as well, but I feel like in Civ 5 the chance of it happening just passively throughout your actions is higher than in Civ 6. Because I've had games where I've been, you know, turn 200 and I just randomly got my Pantheon because I got 20 faith from a city-state. Which would sort of be bad if we have latecomers into the game where they're like, oh, we don't want to do religion,
yeah,
but it's already been kind of, is not possible because of the early game actions that we did when nobody was interested in religion or as such.
well, what can we do? Now Australia's bonus is extra housing on the coast, so trying to work on coastal cities. But we've got several quarries right next to us, and this area has quite a few of them. We also have, is it silk? I believe.
I would go for the stone circle because it's always good to get more faith
Right.
with your Pantheon belief, I believe.
Yeah.
So the one with the
Yeah.
stone circle sounds good.
Okay. Sounds good. And we've just learned a bit about mysticism.
Nice.
All right. Now, say we fortify the warrior.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got production. I want to do the monument. Say if there were more people, we put it up to a vote, but we're just doing it kind of more informally. So monument.
Right. Yeah. Just, I have to go to the toilet. 1 second. I'll be right.
Okay. And that has just been broadcast internationally. So I guess waiting for Charisarian to get back. Ken's not saying much because he's at work.
Alright, I'm back.
Welcome back. So as soon as you stepped away, Catherine de Medici introduced herself again with a trade delegation. So far, we've been saying yes to all the diplomacy.
Yeah, just keep on saying it, yeah. I don't see any reason why not.
It is not that life ashore is distasteful to me, but life at sea is better.
Alright, we've got sailing. So I suggest we get those whaling boats.
Yeah, definitely.
And then we'll deal with the environmentalists later. Okay, we can fight this barbarian scout, or we can keep exploring.
That was a scout. Yeah. I just keep on going. It's over a river.
So, which way should we go?
Just go further south, I'd say. Find the end of the continent.
Alright, we have
Towards the south.
just found the barbarian camp. I do not want to go next to them. So,
Oh no, definitely.
go to the
definitely.
stone.
Yeah. Yeah. To the one on the east, I'd say.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got a river, and more stone, and more stone, and more stone. Okay, and we get to pick a research. So, I kind of wish we had a few more cities, but I don't know if I've explained my thought on that citizenship system very well. 'Cause it's hard to explain, but what I had in mind is, so right now we would have a state, which I don't know what we'd call it. Just call it Australia. When we found the capital, we would have a state. And when we get a settler, that settler will be part of the state and will start a new city. We'll have two cities as one state. After we have 5 players or more in that other state, they can move to become their own state. And then each one works kind of similar to how we have cities right now with their own government. But this way it is based on the population of players instead of the in-game population. It'd be easier to explain when there's more cities.
Right, so would that be like another citizenship type deal, where you're allocated to where you vote and shit?
Yeah, there will be local elections, and part of my idea is just to say there's going to be local governments that are completely autonomous. So if you want to have your state be communist, fine. Each state gets to choose their own government structure. They just have to have an elected governor, and they have to have representatives. And so each state would build up the legislature. Each state gets one legislator automatically, and then for every 5 population, they get an additional legislator. So each state's going to have 2 legislators to begin with.
And
so,
that's 5 democracy, like people,
right, these are
not
yeah,
in-game. Yeah.
these are voters. These are not in-game.
Voters.
And so the in-game population doesn't really matter. So there's also going to be cities that don't have a state. These will be cities that we capture, or cities that get abandoned by the population for whatever reason. These will be directly under the control of the president until they're able to apply for statehood again.
Right.
And so
And
that
the president, but his actions can still be controlled through like legislative processes, I assume.
Right. Right, there will be the whole checks and balance things. I would like to see the Constitution be simplified and just say, well, these are the basic roles, these are how they're supposed to be fulfilled, this is what they can never do, and for the rest of it, legislate it. And
Yeah.
the more we put in legislation, the less we have to deal with amendments.
So with the all the states being autonomous and all that, would you suggest that there be like a state legislature and just a main legislature for everybody?
Well, the point being they're autonomous. They can pretty much allocate their power or their structure any way they want. If they just want to put everything on the governor, they can do that. If they want to have a city council system, which we had evolving in Mark II, they could try that. If they want to have their own miniature government, they can do that.
Yeah, but like in the end of the day, they'll still be relying on whoever's the president and all that, and they'll...
Right. Well, the gameplay is going to, again, this is just stuff I've been brainstorming. Is the gameplay is going to be done by the governors and the president, and whoever the appointed advisors are. So it'll be kind of similar to how we had the gameplay sessions in Mark II set up.
Right.
Yeah,
Instead of...
I'm looking at Mark II for a lot of inspiration here. And so you'll have all those people meeting, and whatever the governors do is based on what's happened in their local governments. And I think the local government should work more like political parties in the sense that they do whatever they want, they have their own rules, they just have to have certain things confirmed first. Like they have to have a governor picked and some very basic stuff to say that we're an actual state. So that's kind of how the idea plays out.
I'd feel like it would run a risk if they are separated. Like, yeah, that would just be separate games almost. That there would be little. Well, there's supposed to be some need to interact, but like.
Well, because we're still playing Civ, we're still going to be playing the overall game. Everyone's going to have to work together in that sense. It's just going to be how do we politically get people, which is the whole point of democracy, is that politics. That's the part we don't control.
I suppose it'd be quite good because you'd need people to discuss going.
Right, so we could say, and this is
A.
what I was thinking with the whole Hausia movement, was I wanted people in Mark II, when I tried the Hausia thing, to look at this one area and be very devoted to it, to try and look at the resources and the tiles around and get involved in that and say, well, we're only interested in these tiles and this area, and we're going to focus our attention on that. We'll have this other area that wants to focus on this, and we'll have a political thing because we're going to decide what are we as a nation focusing on? Why aren't we focusing on a big glass city, or why aren't we focusing on London or York? And that was my thinking with Hausia, and this will introduce something like that.
It'd be quite good because you had at one point, I suppose you'd need interstate relations as well going.
Right.
So if we were to be at war, maybe the pacifist state will refuse to produce units or whatever. Or,
right.
Shit like that, and then, delegations from each other need to cooperate.
Right.
And
then you get into where political parties, you'll have the pro-war parties coming out and saying, well, this area is too pacifist, let's move some of our people in there and try and take over the city. And then, so you've got that whole area where political parties and coalitions start coming into it to try and shape what's going on in the different states. So we kind of encourage carpetbagging in a way.
I know you said the Constitution should be pretty hands-off, but in that case you'd need to make sure that would be possible. So if you wanted to move into let's say a communist state, and that the communists didn't somehow abolish everything that is democratic, and there would be no way of somebody.
There would be sorry. Oh, I'm joking. There would be some rules as to what would be, as to what a city, to what a state would have, and they would have to have a governor, they would have to have representatives, and they would have to be under federal law, meaning whatever the legislature orders would apply to the cities and to the states. So there would still be that hierarchy, a lot like how we have the states in the U.S., where there are the levels of government where federal trumps everything, but there's the states pretty much have autonomy in most areas.
Yeah.
So what technology should we be looking at?
Alright, we've got masonry statistics. Because it gives us... Actually, wait. What do we need for... Just I'll give us irrigation.
I was looking at doing irrigation before, so we would need pottery first, so 10 turns to irrigation, and we can get a granary in the meantime.
Exactly.
Okay, so pottery then irrigation. All right, you're starting to get quiet. I'm having a hard time hearing you now.
Right, okay, I'm a bit late because I've been saying stuff.
So pottery?
Yeah.
All right. Then we're ready to move on to the next turn. We have our luxury. All right, so I'd say we need to move east, but we can go northeast to this area here, or we can just go to the river.
Yeah, just actually, I'd say move the furthest you can.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
So all the way up there, northeast.
Okay. I'm wondering, is that the coast or is that just a lake? So we'll find out.
That looks like... You hover over it. Looks like a lake.
Alright, so we've got one more build on our builder. We can do another stone, or we can do a farm, or we can... Well, those are our choices. Or we can save for later.
Personally, I'd do stone to get the production up.
Alright. Let's take a look at our tile management. So, we're working the stone resource, and that is really good. Not really any reason to not work that. We're also working the silk, which is really good. It'll be even better when we get irrigation. 20 turns before we grow, so don't need to focus too much there. I'd say it looks good. Although, I do want to look at this again.
Might want to work the
Yeah.
other stone once we've got a quarry there.
Well, yeah, after the quarry. Well, we would get the faith into production, yeah, and then after that I am looking at these whales. Alright, so where should we move the scout?
Scout, just at a border, no. Yeah, check if that's the lake or not. And
Yeah.
then,
Okay,
depending on
and
what it is.
it does look like a lake.
I'll just move past it, I'd say.
And we found another barbarian scout and more mercury. And after our scout dies of poisoning, we'll have to make a new one.
Yay. I found Mercury such an odd addition of a luxury.
Yeah, it
Whatever it is.
definitely is. Can't complain about the coffee, though.
No.
So,
And tea.
they've announced some of the new leaders in Rise and Fall, and the newest one is Robert the Bruce of Scotland.
Oh, I fucking love that. That's brilliant. Honestly, I was torn on getting it, but now I think I might
Yeah,
just get it
it's-
just for that.
Robert the Bruce is one of the new leaders, so I'm excited for that. All right, so where should we move the scout?
Just onto the Mercury and then continue.
All right, Guess we'll head towards the desert. And more barbarians. We're not finding a lot of villages this time.
No goodie huts. Oh, another barbarian camp.
Okay. So far not too eventful a game, but I think for a start it's a good thing. If we do go with Civ 6 for Mark IV, there's going to be a lot of people that are not familiar with the game, and a lot more that are not familiar with Rise and Fall.
Yeah, that would be
So,
a problem.
yeah, I think the fact that it starts out where there's stuff to do, but it's very slow at the beginning, is probably a good thing. So, say we were to do 10 turn sessions to kind of account for the civic system. That would mean this would be our second session of the game right here.
Ending, yeah.
Yeah. And so by then we'd be figuring out exactly what we're doing, and this really feels like when we're about to start making plans in the game. So I think pacing-wise, this isn't too bad.
Yeah.
So where should we move the scout to?
Go through the desert.
Okay, we found some copper. And
There's no natural wonders yet. Usually you'd find one or
yeah,
two.
I've never gone this long without finding one. So, north or south?
South looks like a dead end, so go north.
Oh, you said south, and I immediately
Oh,
responded.
right.
I should actually listen to the whole sentence, but that would be like me actually reading stuff that's said in the chat.
I thought clay must feel happy in the good potter's hand.
Now, the quotes in this game are weird compared to what Civilization usually does.
All I know is that they've got Terry Pratchett in there, and I love it.
Yeah,
That's the only one I care for. Don't
they're
really
a
read-
lot more modern, but they don't always fit the technology very well, it seems.
The quote might not, but I feel like the quotee would.
Yeah,
So yeah.
but I think the best they did was still Civ 4, not just Leonard Nimoy, but there was good quotes on that. Should we go towards the copper or circle back around through the wheat and around the coast? I mean, there's really no reason for the circle back unless we're checking for a village. So I'd probably say the copper.
Pardon, sorry.
Sorry?
What did you say? I didn't understand.
Oh, okay. We can either go south through the wheat and going around the lake, or we can go north to the copper. I'm saying there's no reason to go around unless we're looking for a village here in this one spot.
Yeah, it's probably not going to be the case.
Yeah,
We'll
so
just be
Right.
just be backtracking at that point.
yeah, I think it's just a waste of our movement. So. All right, so we've actually got this area mapped out pretty well. So, wonder if we should be focusing on the south here, which apparently is the edge of the map, or if I guess we need to be going north along the mountain range. But we have the barbarians in the way.
Yeah. Well, they don't tend to attack if they're just in the camp. Well, they might have spawned more to the side,
Alright.
which would be a problem.
Now we've got pottery, and we were going to do irrigation next.
Indeed.
Alright, so 4 turns we'll have irrigation. And I don't know how much longer we're going to do the stream for. Because, I mean, I've got time, but I don't know.
Well, just how you feel like it.
Yeah,
Don't know. It's not that late for me right now.
yeah. So, what should we be building? We can start expanding now, or we can work on that granary. I like the granary idea. Could be advantages in settling now. Galley can get us to explore the coast a bit.
I quite like the idea of a galley.
All right, galley it is.
Just head that north as a second explorer, sort of.
Yeah. Right, so I'm thinking we need to get moving on the next phase of planning Mark II, getting together to go over what we've got for our initial proposal.
Definitely.
I was gonna write out a sample constitution. I'm just for some reason having a hard time with that, and so here let's just meet and get that going. Hopefully this week, and then we can start planning an actual convention very soon.
Yeah, definitely. I'm free most of the time nowadays.
Yeah. Wednesdays are not good for me, but other than that, I can work with anything.
I'll be gone for a bit tomorrow, but that'll be probably in the middle of the night for you lot, so...
Yeah. Now tomorrow my copy of Dissidia Final Fantasy is showing up, and I intend to do absolutely nothing that day. So, yeah, so I might not be around tomorrow, depending on when it actually arrives.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of things to consider. It is hard to decide if we should stick with Civ 5.
Right. Part of this
game
is I just want to see a stream play out for a little while. It's been a little while, so we can kind of see, does this even work? I think it can work if we are well planned as regards to how the civics and technologies work. Other than that, it's very much like Civ 5 for most other things.
The bad thing, if we start writing a constitution for Civ 6 now, and we couldn't really play with the new expansion unless we would rewrite what we've got and add to it once that comes out.
Yeah, that's true.
I suppose we could use...
I'd say we don't do the convention until Rise and Fall is out and we've had some time to play it.
When's the release date for that?
2 weeks, I think. It's right around the corner. It's like...
Right, okay.
Yeah, it's not long. So
How long do you think we should take a break between now and Mark 4?
I think... I was thinking March 15th might be a good time to start.
Alright.
Depending on the convention and how productive that is. I'd like to get our initial planning done before we start talking the convention, but I'd like to postpone a convention until we've played Rise and Fall. So it gives us a couple weeks to hammer stuff out.
Right, okay.
One thing I don't want us to do the Mark III convention again.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
not,
but
no.
a lot of that is because we were burned out and just wanted to be done with everything.
Yeah.
I know that's how I felt.
Yeah. Yeah, just kind of... Thing is, the worst thing would be if we just produced something which everybody hated.
Right.
That would just be... So we need to kind of gauge...
There's no way we're going to get what everyone wants, though. That's pretty much guaranteed. And people are going to try and put stuff in there, and I say we leave as much out as possible and try and move as much to legislation. You're concerned that we'll start planning stuff for Civ 6 and then Rise and Fall is going to change everything. But if the Constitution is pretty bare with regards to some of this stuff, and we put the rest of this in legislation, amending it's nothing.
Yeah.
So we won't have to go through the amendment process, and we won't be locked into it. And it's probably a good idea because it's a new game, and we're not going to have strategy down no matter what, because no one will have played it enough.
Yeah. Again, I suppose even if might be a bit, I don't know, even if the average democracy player doesn't have Civ 6 or doesn't play Civ 6 or whatever, if you look at the Civ subreddit, it's almost entirely moved onto Civ 6 by now.
Right.
So there are plenty of players out there on Reddit.
I do think it's actually turned people off that we're still playing Civ 5.
It might have. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say. It's not really a question we asked on the registry or in the surveys. Is with regards to that. But that's kind of my feeling. Civ 6 is what people are interested in right now. It's still a lot of people are loyal to Civ 5, just like people were loyal to Civ 4 when Civ 5 was out. It's going to be up for referendum, and it's going to be a community decision. But before I recommend one or the other, I want to see this in action, which again, that's what we're doing here. Though I think I'm just about ready to wrap it up. Probably turn 30.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Should we move over to this forest or over to this area? I think we'll get more movement if we go here.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right.
I think one thing we need to do when we do referendums for the Constitution, for Mark IV in general, is what I see in a lot of the other demo games is that they do a lot of referendums and asking the public, but like they just do them. There'll be some people talking about it in whatever in their chats, and then they'll put out a referendum. I think we definitely need a lot of discussion before a referendum happens.
Oh yeah, we do things differently because we originated out of, even though we came out of the Civ subreddit, we took our Constitution right out of model U.S. government.
Yeah.
So we are very heavily influenced by the model governments. So we have more of a interest in the structure of the government and all the bureaucracy even that goes in with that. Whereas a lot of the others are more interested in the in just everyone getting involved directly into the gameplay. That does cause a little bit of frustration, I think, that we do it differently, and it's a big difference in approach.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's part of why I say direct democracy isn't a good fit for Democraciv. It could be, I guess, but it's a fundamental change to what we've made from early on.
I have to say, what Solus's latest amendment, it's not, for the number of people we have right now, it's not awful.
Right.
People we get voting. I think it's definitely more people active than we had before. But then again, at this stage,
I think this could actually run people off in the long run, though.
Yeah, it may. You don't. Well, yeah. I suppose if you look at the other demo games, especially Demhoy, who was entirely.
You also see with the other games, all the other games, they just go through so fast, and they're already on, like.
Yeah,
they just they plow through the game so fast. They're not. It doesn't say they're quite as involved, and
they're very quick to call it quit.
Yeah,
they're very quick to call it quit.
Yeah, we put a lot into building up things, and we've got a lot going on outside the game. That the Civ game, by Mark II, it's like the Civ game was almost a side thing that we lost focus on with all the political stuff, and I actually thought that was really neat.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. Again, what I'll try to say is basically we don't have to. We definitely should not just throw any referendum out there.
Right.
And then just see what they
Right.
put down, because people just put down what they think initially without thinking about it first
Well, that's
and realizing.
where we had the petitioning system in Mark II was for that. For you could have whatever crazy idea, put it up for discussion, but it wouldn't be a binding referendum. We'd still have that formal process in the way, but if you had some idea to this is what we want to do, you could still get that out there.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good compromise between let's get everyone a voice and have stuff voted on right away, or let's think things through and do things with a full government.
Yeah.
It is important that every person in Democracy, whether even if they're like a big participant or they're just a lurker or not, does get to have some involvement, and they get to see a response to that there's some feedback, that it's not I'm just throwing away my time or my vote. That's part of what makes this, I think what makes this so addictive, is you do get that sense of you are doing something, you do get feedback even if it's not successful.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Well, I'm going to move this guy up here. I think that's probably the best move, is here. Oh, more coffee.
Yay.
Thousands have lived without love. Not one without water.
All right, so everyone here, both of us, know about it. But so we've got a domain name. That's for anyone listening in who doesn't know. We now own democraciv.com, and we set up a fund. So anyone in the community can contribute money for if we have expenses like that, where we think this is a really great tool that we can use, but it's going to cost us something. We can chip in and cover it. So currently the fund is still sitting at, I think, $37. So that's, that'll cover a lot of stuff right now, since we are still using free stuff wherever possible. Do need to start figuring out like what kind of stuff can we get now that we have this, resource. What can we do with it? So that'll be interesting to think about.
Yeah, it's right now all we do is link to the subreddit, right?
Right.
With the webpage.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see an actual website. I threw together sort of a test thing on WordPress, and apparently someone else had made a Democraciv site, or for all I know it could have been me ages ago. But I threw something together to see.
Yeah, I seem to remember
a prototype. But I'd like to see someone that actually does design take a look at it. Put something nice together. Be nice if, if we keep using the spreadsheet system, if we could find some way to pull that data out into a website. I've been playing with something offline, but having issues trying to get it to work. But I actually had something that pulled the data from the public registry and formatted it into a web page. But I'm having a lot of trouble making it work, and I'm not sure if it's even possible to make it work properly.
I don't know. Didn't Voxel say he did web design or something like that?
Was it Voxel? I talked to someone briefly, and I gave him the WordPress link and said, well, this is what I'd like to see on a website, is just these links kind of organized similar to this. and it's basically all the stuff that was on the public registry moved to a site. Just something simple where you don't have to search a lot. You just click beginner's guide, click vote here, register to vote, and it's just all right there, visible. Not a lot of questions to how to do it all. It's just right there.
Yeah, it'd be nice just to have pure like statistics to see how we're doing, how everything's,
Yeah.
Because I feel like that misses. We miss that a lot because we don't know like how many people are there. We've got the people who are active on Discord
Right.
and such, but we don't really, if you come in, you see a bunch of people talking, but if you look at
Yeah.
a web page like that and you see individually, oh, there's a lot of people involved in this, it doesn't look like it's this, little.
And honestly, if you
close-knit
look at the subreddit right now, it looks dead. And we're anything but dead. But if you look at the subreddit, we're pretty quiet right now. And what we do have are "I resign" or "This is terrible" posts. It's some pretty dire stuff, considering that that's
And we've
all
had
people are
that.
seeing. If you remember,
Yeah,
a
we've
year
had that.
ago, it was a lot different. A year ago.
I was actually just having a look at our subreddit stats just now. We've gone up since December quite a bit, actually.
I do kind of feel after Christmas. Well, I think the Christmas break did a lot of good for us. But I do kind of think we are getting a little bit more, not quite a second wind, but stuff's moving again.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
don't know how long that's going to last. It could be the direct democracy thing boosting us up. It could just be people are getting interested again. Who knows? I really am hoping Mark IV really kicks things off again. I'm going to move over to the coffee because, of course, I am.
There's jungle there.
Let's see. So we've got our irrigation done, which means we probably need to get another builder pretty soon.
Yeah.
So what should we be looking at? What should we be researching? Writing is always good, and that's only 4 turns.
Yeah, but if we can do astrology and we can do religion, because we've already got a fair bit of religion going at the moment.
Do we want to play religiously?
I mean, we would have we're favored to that right now, but we don't have to. We
Right.
could do writing in 4 turns and start building a campus if we wanted.
Right. We also want to get that trade route started.
Right. Whereas
Well, that's
That-
going to be when our civic comes in. I don't know. Maybe we should hold off astrology till we find a natural wonder.
yeah, perhaps.
So I say we go with writing for now, because science is always the key in civilization. No matter what you're playing with, science is the most important. We do have some barbarians approaching, and they're alerted, and they are right next to our stone. So I say,
yeah.
we activate our warrior and get that stone protected.
Not only that, I'd say go after him because he's gonna.
Yeah, but we can't
He's
get there
gonna-
in 1 turn.
Yeah, but like next turn then.
Yeah, well,
Um,
the
not
movement
gonna-
system is really frustrating in Civilization 6 because there's no way we can get to the hills this turn, and so there's really no way we can catch up with them at all. They're going to outrun us immediately.
Yeah, I suppose. But
Yeah.
the thing is, he's definitely gonna run back to the nearest barbarian encampment right now.
Which is quite a ways away.
Well, you never know. They often spawn in
Yeah.
the early game.
I
But yeah, we'll,
doubt
we'd
that
have
this encampment's been taken out, and they're not going to spawn that close together, I don't think. So
I
I
suppose.
really
yeah.
have a feeling this is where they're going to go. It's going to take them a little while to get there, and then we know that we need a defense up really fast. We've got 180
Yeah.
gold. I think we can actually buy a warrior.
Actually,
Yeah,
Perhaps
we can
another
buy a warrior or a slinger.
I'd go with the slinger personally,
Yeah.
because
So let's move
that
him
gives
here.
you.
And then
If you
yeah,
buy a slinger, you can get I think if you get a kill, 1 or 2 kills with a slinger, it
Yeah.
boosts archery immediately.
yeah.
So, that's
So
good.
this gives us a good early defense against the barbarians because we know they're coming, and we've got that good early warning. I think we'll be okay. Right. So now I'm thinking, do we want to stick with the galley? As we probably are, but I want to look at what else we could do. We're going to want a builder soon to cover the silk.
Yeah.
But next turn we're going to unlock the trade route, which is our quest with Palenque.
That's good.
So
That's the positive aspect of trade, I suppose. The world gets stirred up together.
okay, so we're doing double experience for recon. We can change that to production, 100% production towards naval units, or +5 combat against barbarians.
I'd do +5 combat against
Right,
barbarians.
because we are having that invasion coming up.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we can do +2 gold from all trade routes, or +1 faith and +1 gold, or we can stick with 1 production. I'm still saying production for now. Unless we do want to go for faith.
Faith and gold. I'd say production as well. Yeah.
Okay. Alright, so leaves us with 3 to choose from. Mysticism, Early Empire, and Craftsmanship.
Well, mysticism gives us an envoy. That's always good.
Well, yeah, that is very good.
I mean, do we have any envoys yet? Because that first envoy is always very.
We have
Useful.
1 envoy in each of the 2 city-states.
Oh, that's not going to make a difference then. What is
Yeah.
the other? Great Prophet and Great, and you get the Oracle.
Yeah.
Um.
I don't really know about mysticism.
Yeah, good craftsmanship.
Yeah.
Game recommends it.
Yeah. And I'm thinking it might not be a bad idea to look at the production towards builders.
Actually, you get Great Sign. Oh, we can't even use those cards yet.
Yeah. Okay. So for the warrior, there's no way we're going to catch up.
No.
So we're going to
Yeah,
have
just
to
fortify.
play defensively. So should we fortify here, or maybe we should go up to the hill again?
Yeah. Go up to the hill, you can see further.
Yeah.
Perhaps when we have the galley, we can move it about.
All right. And how about the
towards
slinger?
the-
Just hold position in the capital?
Well, it's not going to be able to hit anything from there.
Right.
So maybe move it onto the quarry, because that's elevated as well, I think.
Yeah. You feel a little uneasy leaving the north end unguarded, but there's only 1 quarry there. Now, if we want to be aggressive, we could take that German settler.
Where is he? Oh, right there.
Yeah,
We could, yeah, definitely.
yeah. So what do we think of that?
That'll just turn. Wouldn't that just turn into a
No, it actually
building.
lets you keep the settler in Civ 6.
Oh right. Okay.
Yeah, so we would get a new city
That's-
right away next to some coffee, which I'm totally cool with.
Yeah, definitely. If he's unprotected, I'd
Yeah.
go for it.
Okay, well, this is probably the meanest thing we can do. With no warmonger penalty.
Wie wollt ihr an mir gesiegen, der ich so viel der Fiende verdurbe?
Yep, so now we have a German settler. And I don't think they've got enough military to do anything about it. I say we could actually settle maybe right here in these plains with the rainforest, next to the coffee and the mercury, rush out a unit as soon as possible and hope for a peace treaty. That's how I'd do it. Or maybe, because we're better off on the coasts, 2 luxuries and a mountain for protection, or a coast. I think the rainforest is the best bet. Scout just needs to stay here.
Probably just lose it otherwise.
Yeah. Alright, so I think we're good for this turn. And like I said, this is about when the game's going to be kicking off, and apparently it is. Alright, let's put them in escort. You say over towards the mountain with the coffee and the mercury, or move somewhere else?
Yeah, coffee mercury sounds good. Or we could go for that water next to the coffee.
What I was looking at was that lake, but I think this is a easier defensive position. They only have two tiles that are good to attack from, and they are open terrain. So, what do we do with this warrior?
Yeah, fortify that.
Okay. How about the slinger?
Keep him there, or maybe move him between the warrior and the coast or the mountain. Either one. I don't know.
How about between slingers don't have good range.
Not really, no, that's why.
I'm thinking up here on the hill, though, is the best thing we can do.
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, so I'm going to put the slinger on alert. And then let's move up towards the coffee. And it's recommending we go to this spot by the river. Probably not a bad idea.
What? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was talking about.
Take us a little further from the mercury and coffee, which shouldn't be a problem. It'll take us a little while to get that. Should I see if Germany will take a peace treaty?
Oh, don't know. I've never had early war, but yeah, have a look.
No, I have to wait 10 turns.
Right.
Yep, I've actually done this in my last game I
Dovreste
played.
prestare attenzione a ciò che accade d'intorno. Credetemi, vi sono fin troppi
With Democracy,
giochini
that
che
is
stanno
very
avendo
true.
luogo.
There are games being played here on so many levels.
Writing means sharing. It's part of the human condition to want to share things. Thoughts,
Whoever wrote that has never been in a kindergarten. Okay, so what technology should we be looking at?
Masonry would give us more. Wouldn't that give us? Couldn't we attack from the city then if we get masonry?
I believe so. Walls, I believe, allow for city range strikes. Yes. So that's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Alright, masonry it is. So we can do a granary, we can add a campus. I'd say we don't even need a settler. I kind of like the idea of getting a trade route going now.
Yeah, didn't you say one of the city states?
That's our, yeah, that's our quest with Palenque, is the trade route. So, we say trade route or granary.
Trader.
Okay. So, if we were doing that citizenship thing, what would have happened right here is this settler is German. Since this settler does not have a home city within our country, they're considered under the president's control. So when this next city is established, oh, and it's a coast. This is perfect. When we establish this next city, it will be the job of what used to be mayor in Mark II is going to go to the president. The president can actually decide everything that's being built and done in this area until enough people decide to move in and declare it its own city, or it gets adopted by another state.
Right. Yeah. Give a lot of power to the president, I think. And it wouldn't be like, yeah, there's no council or anything like that, no.
Yeah. Well, it
What's it
encourages
called?
people to try and take that territory, but it's also not going to hold up the game if the state government is absent.
Yeah, that as well.
And so I'm thinking the system will actually give a lot of leeway for people to just not bother to do things. Whenever that happens, control just defaults back to the president. Which gives you an incentive to stay involved.
Yeah, probably, definitely. Yeah, actually, yeah, because then, suppose if everything's running all right, you might just not bother.
Yeah.
I had an idea. Maybe we could just have some sort of, just so we know what the community wants. We can have a sticky post on a subreddit where everybody can just kind of
Well,
write down
with,
what they want.
At the end of Mark II, we did a bunch of surveys to get some community feedback, and that went into Mark III. And that was actually some of the good ideas that came from that. But I definitely want to gather as much information and as many opinions from people going in, and hopefully we can get as many people involved in the last part of the Constitutional Convention.
Yeah.
You know,
Question is, should we start that already now-ish? So we can have...
the convention?
No, just
Oh.
like a Reddit post where everybody can...
Well, I was
Write
kind
down-
of wanting to see Mark III play out and just do an exit thing with all that, but getting that done, you know, it does seem like we're at the point where what we're thinking about Mark III, we're already thinking. I don't think opinions are going to change. It might not be a bad idea to get that rolling. I was going to wait on that. If you think we should get on that, though, that's not a bad idea.
Perhaps not immediately, but like within the next, don't know, week or so. So
Yeah.
it would also be another thing to keep people, because people, like right now, a lot of people want change and they want to talk about change. They want to be
Right.
active and such. And like if we bring out a post, we can even explain what we are planning on doing, so
I'm
everybody knows what's
a little
happening.
concerned, this be manipulating the situation, I guess, is when we had Mark II, we had all these people coming up with these big ideas of what they wanted, and they had to have this, they had to have this. And that's a lot of what contributed to the Mark III Constitution, was everyone had some grand idea of how to fix things. And
Oh, yeah,
we'd
definitely.
let that kind of build up and build up and build up early on in the planning. We got so many people involved in the planning that we didn't really smooth things out. We didn't come to a consensus or come to even a lot of discussion on it. Nobody was willing to give ground on anything. So pieces of everything got thrown in there. I don't even know what parts of what got in there. It's a mess. I can't even make sense out of the document, and my name's on it.
Yeah, ditto here. Yeah, that's the thing I was thinking. If we get started relatively early, A, we'd have more time for discussion, and B, because it wouldn't be written by everybody, we would just kind of take the idea, like, if it's clear everybody wants, I don't know, I don't, like the ministry system back from Mark II or something like that.
Right.
If that is inherently clear, people are going to want to have that. There's no point us not,
Yeah.
you
So-
know, writing something completely different.
Right. Our
If everybody's
proposal
gonna reject
needs to
that.
be very simple.
Mhm.
And though I'd like the final constitution to be very short, I mean, like maybe 4 pages instead of
Yeah.
an epic poem like we had and we have now.
Yeah, 16 or something.
But
like
something that was commented on when we were getting the news coverage is the length of our constitution. And that was really a kind of intimidating thing to people, was how much reading there was to it, and kind of had to reassure people, well, you don't have to read the whole thing unless you're going into the court or something. You can just read these summaries and kind of ask what's going on. It's there as a reference, but it's
That was also one of the weird things I always found. Whenever somebody joined, people always kind of told them, yeah, first thing you do, read the Constitution. Yep. What the why? And that is one of the worst pieces of advice.
right.
I would
It
give
was
to any
a very
newcomer.
intimidating document, and we can't be to blame too much on that because we did take it from model U.S. government. But I think the model governments, they're really geeky in that people that go into those are really obsessed with what they're doing. We're drawing in a more casual group who are interested in the Civ part than just people that would go into a model government themselves. We're kind of in that middle ground.
Yeah, definitely. Although I do believe some people would love to take it to a full-on model government
Yeah.
type deal. But no, that would just.
The Constitution
continue.
needs to be something that it's basically the point where it sets the limit, saying this is where we don't go, and we can legislate everything else. The Constitution needs to be very simple. Every time we add some line to the Constitution, it's a restriction on the game, and that's just going to cause more problems down the road. So the restrictions in there need to be reasonable. The more we define in the Constitution, the more we break the game later on.
Yeah.
Especially if it's really inflexible. A good Constitution should be able to scale with the population changing. It should be able to scale with us learning the game better, with political upheaval. It should be very flexible. And we have been too rigid in both Mark II and Mark III.
Definitely. Yeah, it's just, you know, you have these things. Even if there's some ambiguity and some, you know, if it's not quite clear, at least, you know, it might sound bad, but, you know, it would give something to the community to talk about. It would be, you know, either you can fix it, you can bring it to the courts, whatever, if there's something that is just not 100% covered by it, perhaps should be. But also that could bring, like, perhaps instead of, you know, having a constitution and writing out, oh, this is how we do this,
Right.
we start the game like this. We could just not start the game for perhaps a week or so and just have legislation being written before the first game.
And
session.
I absolutely think maybe even longer than that. We do need to have the whole discussion about which civilization we want to play.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm
Again, I
totally
don't
not
think that
going
should
to
happen.
insist on Scotland.
I feel like that might happen. If we do 6. Again, I think, didn't that happen before we even
Right.
made the
Oh,
constitution?
it's always the thing we do first is choosing the civ. We do that before the Constitution is even finished. We've
Yeah,
done
I don't-
that with all 3 games.
I don't know.
And so we're, you know, I think maybe this time we're going to do them at the same time, but finishing the Constitution is really when we kick the game off. But we should have the government up and running before we start the gameplay session. But a lot of the decisions in the government are going to be based on the country we play. The political parties can also be influenced by
Yeah.
who we're playing as. We might go for a bit of a theme, and we've done that before. So
But-
it's a good idea to know who we're playing before we get anything running.
Talking about parties, right? Pretty sure general consensus right now is people don't really want parties
I
to
think
be in the Constitution.
absolutely
and to
not in the
be-
Constitution. If anything, we can say that you have the right to have a political party, but again, we do that. We introduce the problem of, well, it's a constitutional right. Any restriction on a party is going to be an infringement of the Constitution, and then we'll have a bunch of lawsuits, and then we'll get all these absurd things happen. We'll get a court
Perhaps-
ruling which established precedent,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's a huge mess waiting to happen.
We could have just parties under like a bracket, an umbrella of things of like you have the right of forming groups of interests, groups of
Yeah.
which isn't only a party, which could be.
I do like the
newspaper,
idea
which
of
could be,
putting in a Bill of Rights. As far as I'm concerned, with the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights was like, oh, well, we left this out. Because as far as amendments go, those first 10 amendments were immediate. It was right away. It's like, oh, we need to have this in there. We should have had that in all along. So I kind of think we should put a Bill of Rights directly into the Constitution.
Yeah.
Instead of amending it in.
But I do believe we should have, moderation should reserve the right to.
I do not even
Moderate.
want the word moderation in the Constitution.
Right. Okay.
This is one of those areas. A Constitution is a very restrictive document, and if we're going to be removed from the game, that throws us back into the game, and puts and it politicizes all the moderation actions, and anything we do for the community's sake now becomes a political issue. And we could run things that way, but things are going to fall apart really fast. It's not really a sustainable situation. I'm going to move on to the next turn, and this is going to be our last turn of the session. Right, so where should we take the galley to?
If we head south, we might be able to catch those. I mean, a galley isn't ranged, is it?
I could see an advantage to going either direction. I'm very curious as to what's south here. To the north,
I
we
think
could
to the
get
east
that on
of-
the scout. I don't really see
might-
much point in going east.
It might just be an island, or it might be a continent. Who knows? Because we might just be in a very small bay here. I see those quite often. It's just these little, like, they're not inland seas, but they're just oceans surrounded by the same continent.
You know, I'm thinking there's something here.
Yeah.
Right
I mean,
here.
curiosity would send me east.
East?
But,
I don't know.
I mean west.
West.
No.
Okay, now
Yeah,
now we're
west,
making
west,
sense.
yeah.
Okay,
Sorry.
let's
East. Go
just
fucking
go
mainland.
one square at a time
Road.
and see. Okay, so we found some tea, and if we could move that 2 tiles over, then I'd have something nice to drink.
Yeah.
Okay, so north or south?
South.
Okay. Now we can settle our next city. And I think
damaged barbarian camp.
this
That
is
means
a
people are-
good spot here. It's well defended, so we don't have to worry too much about an invasion. We need to focus on getting a warrior as soon as possible, and then probably a builder so we can get that coffee. Alright, so found the city.
Yeah, definitely.
Alright, so what should we
Although
call
that
it?
is- Alright. What is it called? Melbourne or something?
It's called Hobart.
Hobart. That's such a little. I don't know. Call it what you want. Hello?
Yeah.
Alright, I thought you'd gone quiet.
No, I was waiting for you to suggest something.
Alright, sorry, I don't know, God. We've got tea and whale. Whale tea. Tiwa. Don't know.
Well, we've got coffee, whales, and mercury. And copper.
I don't know. We stole it from Germany, so maybe
Yeah.
call it, I don't know, not German. German. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just leave it Hobart
Okay.
if it has to.
Alright, that works.
Also, I
guess.
find it weird that it has our pantheon also, even though we stole the settler from Germany.
Yeah, but I guess their culture is that of the scout now. So we're gonna need a warrior very quickly because there's not much defense here. And I would say we can just take the scout out and have him go back on his mission.
Yeah.
So should we go around the mountain to the north or to the south?
Run the mountain to the north.
Okay, so that's the end of turn 30, and that's where we're going to stop. Alright, well, this has been interesting. So, what do we think? How do you think this is going to play out as if this were democrative?
Oh, well, don't know, depending how many, well, we'd have to, the naming would have been one thing. That didn't really happen in,
Well, one thing...
oh yeah, because in Mark III, the naming was left up to the, governors, right?
Right. Well, in this, if we take the citizenship idea that I have, the state that builds the settler owns the settler and owns the city that gets founded. So the governor of the city picks the name. And they can use whatever the state government is done. They can use that to decide that in advance if they want, or they could just give the governor all the power. But in a case like this, this would be the president picks the name because the president owns the city. So as for city naming, that I think should not be an issue. And also the way we have it set up where we have to pause the game when we settle a new city so we can establish the city government and all that. If we do the state system, we don't have to do that because we already have the city government. It is inherited from the previous government. So right now, this city can function because its mayor and its mayor/governor is the president. Or had this settler been built by another state, that governor would own the city. And so we kind of bypass the mayor thing if we want. But if we want to have mayors, we can do that. And if you get a really big state, you may want mayors to control the individual cities. It's a very flexible system, I think.
Yeah. It's also a bit, well, it is quite complicated to an extent.
I think it's complicated to understand, but it's actually very simple to follow through.
Yeah, perhaps.
It seems it feels very organic to me, but it's hard to explain it. It's just one of the, I can see it play out. I can kind of, but I can't really describe it well.
I'd be worried that people again are turned off.
Right.
Like
As soon as I mentioned that I was doing something with citizenship, people were like, "No more citizenship."
Yeah, people are not a fan of that.
I thought it was one of the exciting things with Mark III was we were finally able to do something with this. I was actually against the idea of citizenship in Mark II, just like I was against finances, because I didn't see how well they would work until I heard some proposals, and we kind of discussed stuff over a long time, and we found some models that were interesting. And I've always thought a citizenship model can work, and can actually be really good for democracy, if it's not too complicated and if there's an incentive to do it.
I think it just needs to be flexible, that
So-
it doesn't, bureaucracy doesn't
Yeah.
hold it up.
Well, I would say, say you join up and you say, well, this citizenship doesn't make any sense. I don't want to mess with it. You would just say, in this case, you'd be a citizen of Canberra by default. And you wouldn't have to do anything. You would just be part of this city. And that's all. You wouldn't have to be involved in anything. You'd get the default ballot when you vote. Other people would be doing their city stuff, but you would just, not have to worry about it until you start noticing how the politics play out. Then you can talk about moving around and all that stuff. But if you just want to join in and start, you don't have to bother with any of it. If people decide that as they're playing, that they're tired of the whole citizenship thing, they can all just move back to the capital, abandon their cities, and everything will, within a session or two, revert back to the main state. So, I'm intending it to be very flexible and very adaptive to how many people we have and how much interest there is in it.
That would be quite interesting, because if there was no citizen, then again, if you want, I would still, because you said like 5 people, for example.
Right. I'm trying to figure out the numbers that work. 5 seems to be the one that. 7 is actually the one that gave the most interesting results, but 5 seems to be the easiest.
Because if you do, if you say, if you have something like that, and most people don't want citizenship, but 5 people want it, and then they just decide to move out into
Right.
God knows where, they'd hijack a city.
Yeah, well, but there's a little complicating factor. Say we've got 30 people playing. 5 people want citizenship, the rest don't. So those 5 people pick a city, they move in, and they decide, well, we're going to make a state and make this a political stronghold. They get everything in order, they choose their governor, they have their local petition, it goes up to vote for the whole state. So those other 25 people also get to vote on statehood.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so if they don't want it, if the majority of the state doesn't want it, it doesn't happen.
That's quite good. That's an opt-in citizen. That's
Right.
okay.
So, everything, there's oversight. There's actually going to be, I kind of want to complicate the process in a bit, in that there's a 2-step to it, or 3 steps. You have to organize the city, you have to organize the state government before you even apply, and have enough, a majority of the citizens on board for that city, or for that state. Altogether, it can be several cities. You have to have a vote done on the state level, where a majority of the state has to approve it, and then it goes to legislature to say, is this going to go through? It has to be confirmed through legislature. So there's a 3-step process to creating a state, and that kind of makes it a little more difficult.
If you say state level,
Right.
Alright, so it would be, at the beginning it would be everybody, because
Right. At the very beginning, everyone's in one city and it's one state. So in this case, it's Canberra and whatever we want to call the state. We'll call it Charazaria. So everyone's a citizen of Charazaria. So we now have the city of Hobart, which we'll call Espressonia. So the people of Hobart want to start Espressonia. Right now, they're part of Charazaria. So we get 5 people here. They put it, they decide by whatever means that they all want to, well, let's say at least 3 of them want to break free and become a new state. They want to become Espressonia. So once that happens, in the next election, everyone in Canberra and Hobart will vote. If a majority of them can agree to creating a Spersonia, it goes to legislature to confirm. Otherwise, the whole citizenship thing is ignored for that election cycle.
Yeah.
Okay, and we've got the pig has got some things to say.
What is he doing?
I thought the minimum playtime for a Civ game was 1k hours without getting huffed into oblivion by the now players. There is something to be said for when you hit your 1000th hour.
I don't think I've played 1,000 hours of any game, apart from maybe Minecraft.
I think I'm going on 2000 for Civ 5.
I think I'm on like 200.
Honestly, Democraciv has really cut my interest in playing Civ 5 down a bit. Now
same. I used to play a lot.
Yeah,
more.
I played
259.
constantly, and then with Democraciv, I'm less into the game itself and more into the,
meta. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's weird like that.
Does playing offline, does that count towards you?
No. So. Yeah.
Oh, I might have a lot more then.
Yeah,
I've played a lot offline.
So my hours are. I really don't even know what is accurate because I used to play it offline a lot on my laptop, but I also would leave it running for days on end so I didn't have to deal with loading screens. So I don't know what my actual hour count is.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I played it offline quite a bit. Listening to podcasts and shit, so I'll definitely be maybe another 100 hours on top of that.
Alright, well, I'm gonna wind this up.
Right.
So this has been...
Do you want to set up a meeting then for just discussing Mark IV stuff?
Yeah, Wednesday afternoons, so around this time I'm unavailable. After around this time on Wednesdays, just everything after Wednesday morning, I'm busy. But Tuesday, my busyness, tomorrow depends on when that game shows up. Thursday, Thursday through the weekend, I'm all good. So what do you think about Thursday?
Thursday, I might be... Well, what time did you start this today?
2 o'clock, so it's 4 o'clock now.
2 hours ago.
Yeah.
That would have been about 10ish. Yeah, probably could do that on Thursday as well.
Okay.
Did anybody just... No, so somebody joined.
Yeah.
Do you want to ask what Ninja, Nianj, and DivX2?
Yeah, we could just post something in the mod chat. Or maybe in the Mark IV chat, which nobody is supposed to know exists.
Mark IV setup, yeah.
Yes, we actually do have a Mark IV chat. We don't really have stuff going on in it, except we posted our sample documents in there. But yeah, I can try and get everyone together, or at least several of us, and sit down and go over stuff and come up with some, something to, well, at least some progress on this, get something going.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I feel like we might be procrastinating a little bit.
Yeah, that worries me a bit. I said I'd have everything done by New Year's, and then I was getting everything done. I was getting it all together, and then I'm just, it's the holidays. And then I was working on stuff. I got a bunch of books from the library on voting systems and even whether we should even have elections the way we have it. Some stuff arguing for and against direct democracy. And I wanted to kind of soak that stuff in before I made an advocacy for one thing or another. So I did kind of take a break from my planning to try and be a little more thoughtful about it. So, yeah, I didn't quite have it as grand as I hoped I would have it, but I think best thing we can do is like we did with Mark II, is just get a couple people in a Discord room together and argue it all over.
Definitely, yeah, probably. It just, considering people hated it a lot at the end, the Mark II Constitution, haven't been written by a couple of people,
Right.
away from everybody, really.
Right.
Wasn't that bad in the end of it.
Well, we had a solid structure from Model U.S. government to begin with, but we went over it very carefully. We went over the document as a whole. We went over each individual section, and I know I made a lot of changes to it, and we tried to kind of look at how stuff fit together and what was contradicting, and a lot of stuff still slipped through. We were supposed to do another draft on it, but both Sonny and I were unavailable for a while, and yeah, so since we were away, they ended up just having to greenlight it before it got that final polish, and we suffered a lot for that.
Yeah, probably. Then again, who knows, you might have just made it worse.
Well, there was a lot of stuff that we knew. There were some errors in there that it wasn't entirely ready. We needed a little more time, maybe like another week, but we had stuff going on that got in the way.
Right, then I might play myself something.
I would like to set up a multiplayer Civ 6 game, because I've never played this online. I brought it up like once or twice, and people are like, "Oh, Civ 6 sucks." I'm like, "Oh well, that's refreshing." Yeah, I want to try it online.
I think my first ever game was multiplayer.
Yeah, I don't enjoy Civ 5 multiplayer anymore, for a couple of reasons. One is that it is buggy every single time. I've never had it not glitch.
Yeah, it's always a bit odd. I can only really remember one big multiplayer game, which I continued after a session.
Yeah.
Because usually you play for a session, you say, "Oh, we'll do this again," and then you never do.
Well,
and
usually
I did it
for me, we play a session, we say we're gonna play it again, and then when we try and resume the game, all hell breaks loose.
I heard a trick somewhere that to get it start up better on the second try and not being laggy is that you have to run a Steam game. You just have to start it up and then close it and then start up Civ, because
Weird.
Steam gives their own games better servers and better connections and all that shit.
Weird.
Not sure how true is this.
I've never heard that, so
who was it? I think the Yogscast talked about it ages ago, because they always complain about how bad it is to play.
Yeah, it's miserable. And another issue I have with Civ 5 multiplayer is, everyone likes it to be simultaneous, and I get that, but there's always unit lag. And when I would go to move my units, I wouldn't get a response, and next I know my unit is dead. Even if I clicked first, the lag would always cause problems with units. And if your computer is not the best at running the game,
your connection is not the best.
It's actually going to affect your gameplay. And so that was always miserable. So that's why I like to play in hybrid, because unless you're doing turn-based based military, another problem I have is they never patched a lot of exploits, and you get a lot of players who have no problem using exploits on you. And
yeah, there's one of the trade ones, isn't there?
Yeah, and there's a trade glitch where you can get whatever you want in the trade. There's ways of getting your units to basically be invincible. There's all kinds of stuff that I was like,
But you can extend the turn timer if you automate a worker.
yeah, and the big thing is it's a big time investment, and people will be like, well, do you want to play Civ 5 right now? I'm like, well, let's see, I'm tired, I need to have dinner in an hour, I'm expecting a phone call, I've got stuff coming up, I need to go such and such place, or it's like, if you're gonna ask me to play Civilization, which is gonna take 8 hours of my life, you need to schedule it. You need to tell me a few days in advance so I can shut the phone off, or tell people, do not interrupt me for this period of time. And people don't want to do that. They just want to tell you, well, let's play. I have a hard time getting people to just schedule a game. And I will not play Civ 5 anymore unless it's scheduled in advance by a couple days. Just for that reason.
Sending up an RSVP.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thing is Civ 5 is as well. If you had things like wonders finish on the same turn, I think it was the host who got priority. So if two people built a Great Wall on the same turn.
Yeah, it's a very frustrating experience, and when you have to schedule a time to play and all that, and then the game glitches, and you spend an hour trying to get the game to work in the first place, it's not worth it. I don't enjoy the multiplayer experience enough to put up with it, which is sad, and I wish they could have put the time into fixing it. And I say that about a lot of things with Civ. As much as I just I love Civ games, and I think Firaxis does amazing stuff, they need to follow through and patch the stuff, and they need to test the patches before they release them. It would be great if these games worked like they should. That would be the only thing better than having these games in the first place, is making sure they actually work.
Well, if you look at it, it's probably 80-90% it does work.
Oh yeah,
Probably.
I mean, honestly, Civ 5 is a pretty solid game as far as crashing and problems go. The problems that it has are usually predictable. And we actually, I was really involved in documenting a lot of the common problems with it, and usually they were easy to fix. They were, nearly all of them were driver based. The game itself was pretty solid. I can't say the same for Civ 6. I have had quite a few crashes on Civ 6, and I think I've only played 3 full games, and I have this really interesting glitch that happens. It's like the infinite pillar right at the right at the center of everything, at the equator. This pillar will show up, and if you start scrolling the screen, it'll start moving and making lines to the side. Have you ever seen that happen?
No, I don't think I have.
It is.
It's
in a sense, it is really cool looking. It's just this big pillar of it's just this big line, and it's really just kind of grows right out of the equator, and but then it spreads, and it just makes the game unplayable. But for a little while, it's just this really cool effect, just a perfect glitch. And I've had that happen twice now.
What I always get is when I quit the game, it kind of freezes. Like the game shuts down, and then just...
Yeah, that happened to me, I think, last night.
Yeah, and then the only way I can get out is by opening a new desktop with Windows and Tab.
Yeah.
Opening Task Manager on there and closing it.
Well, nice thing with Windows 10 is you get the Control Win key right. I don't know if you ever use the multiple desktops, but that works great.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly that.
Yeah, I actually like to keep Task Manager running on the second desktop, so I can do that if I need to. All right. Well, I'm gonna wrap this up. This has been, I think it's actually been really productive. So, all right. Well, thanks for putting up with me.
That's alright.
Alright.
I didn't have anything.
Alright.
Anything else to do anyway.
All right. Well,
See ya.
see ya.
Alright.